Hello my friends, welcome back to Thumbnail Roast, where I roast my subscribers' thumbnails. I'll be going through 4 channels today. If you want to get roasted, then there's a link in the description to the form, and with that you'll also sign up to my newsletter, which is all about thumbnails. Alright, here we have the first channel. They are called Render Right with 45,000 subscribers. Alright, let's have a look at these. I always like to look at the popular first. 602,000. That's very, very impressive. 5 years ago. Okay, so you've been going for quite a while. How to make an atmosphere scene under 10 minutes. Blender 2.8 tutorial. Okay, cool. This is a really cool niche. I really, really like this. It's very obvious here from these thumbnails and from your titles, the value that you're providing, which I really, really like because that's something a lot of small YouTubers struggle with. Just clearly explaining the value that they're providing. Let's have a look at your recent ones. 3.9, 1.2, 6,000, 12,000. Okay, so your views fluctuate quite a lot. I really like this one here. That's fantastic. If we just look at the one next to it, how to transform any render into music. I have no understanding of what that means, how this becomes music. Whereas this one here, master lighting in Blender under 6 minutes, is extremely clear what you mean. I can see the Blender logo and I can see these light panels and arrows. That for me is extremely clear what you're teaching. Another small thing, I don't want to talk about this too much, but having your logo here in the corner, it doesn't do anything. There's no point to it. People aren't clicking on the thumbnails because they recognize this logo. This logo here in your thumbnail isn't the decision maker if they're going to click on that video or not. So all you're doing here is making the thumbnail more confusing, adding elements that don't need to be there. So this one here as well, the ultimate guide to marvelous Designer, 3 hours. Wow, what a long video. A complete course. I don't know what Marvelous Designer is. I actually don't understand. I don't know what it is. It's either for creating characters or for creating clothes. So if Marvelous Designer is a design program that people recognize, so for me, we'll take it into my niche, Photoshop or Canva, then you want to make it very obvious that, hey, we're designing in Photoshop today. So then I would have Photoshop's logo in the thumbnail. So if Marvelous Designer is the program that you're teaching here, you want that software very obvious in the thumbnail here. Because someone who is clicking on this title here, they clearly care about the software specifically. They're not trying to answer a general question they have on how do I do this, and they wouldn't even care which software to use. Because then you would call it something like how to design 3D clothes, for example. And then in the start of the video, you would start with, today to design 3D clothes, we're going to be using Marvelous Designer. So if you are specifically teaching Marvelous Designer, make sure here that Marvelous Designer is obvious. I'm presuming this is the logo for Marvelous Designer. If so, it is way too small. It takes up as much room as your logo. That's just not obvious to me. The secret to looping animations in Blender. That's a really cool idea. The problem here is it's not visually explained to me. What I'll do is just jump into Canva Draw here. It's completely free, by the way, not affiliated or anything. So what you're going to want to do here is understand how would I visually explain this premise if I were drawing it? So the secret to looping animations in Blender. For me, I've never made a looping animation or anything like that. But for me, the thing I would want to know is this here is going to be my logo. This is my terrible drawing of the Blender logo. I would have something much more obvious that it loops. So possibly a person running. And then here in the middle, like faded out, you might have like a halfway version. Let's just change this arrow here to red. So now in this thumbnail here, I'm seeing, okay, this person here is starting like this and they're ending like this. And here it's looking seamless. So it's a loop. And I can see this loop is happening in Blender. So then up here, we could add some text. Your title was The Secret to Looping Animations in Blender. So you could have something like the one trick, or, you know, something like that creates a bit of curiosity. So now I have all the elements here that I need in my thumbnail for me to understand the premise here, whilst also sparking some curiosity. Now this design here will probably look a lot more boring and probably not as creative as your design here. Obviously that looks really cool and is very impressive, but it doesn't do a good job of explaining the premise of the video, which is super important for thumbnail design and kind of one of the main 4 ingredients that you need in an effective thumbnail. Well done, you're doing a great job. Let's look at the next one. All right, this here is the next channel. So they've only got 3 videos, but this first one has 74,000 views on a brand new channel. I don't know if you have other socials and stuff, but if you don't, that is incredibly impressive. And for small channels that are watching this, I hope this gives some inspiration on like you really can perform well on YouTube, even if it's a brand new channel. So as we can see here, you got 74,000 on your first video, and then 500 and 162. So now I'm presuming you're feeling like, okay, I thought every video was going to crush it like this first one here. This first thumbnail here it's just phenomenal. For small channels out there, this is a phenomenal thumbnail, and I think we could learn a lot from it. I'll just put it into Canva Draw here, and let's have a look at it. So 5 essential apps that helped me to focus on Windows 11. So what can we see here? We can see a bunch of apps, which is what the thing is about. And then we can see the text here saying keep it clean, which is what the video is about. It's about having a focused workspace in Windows 11. This thumbnail here does such a good job of visually explaining what this video is all about. Now, there's a really subtle thing that's done in this thumbnail here, which is absolutely genius. And I think they've done such a good job here. The video is about how do we stay focused and how do we keep it clean. So what they've done is made the thumbnail clean and focused. About 80% of this thumbnail here is blank space. And that's what this whole video is about. How do I make my computer minimalist and clean and simple? And that's visually coming across here in the thumbnail. And this is a mistake that I see a lot of people who make videos about maybe more professional kind of stuff. So let's say something like accounting or giving business advice or something like that, where you might have a more older demographic. And what's happening is you're so scared of having any blank space, you'll have like you and then like an explosion in the background with arrows and like a bright red background here and all of this stuff. That stuff isn't necessary and it's not accurately describing the video. This thumbnail here is accurately describing the video. The video is about how to make something focused and clean. So if your video here is about some serious topic and you're saying, here's effective ways of doing accounting, and your thumbnail has a bunch of stuff going on, then it's not accurately reflecting the video. Just because you hear this generic thumbnail advice of add a bright background and have explosions and arrows pointing everywhere, you know, or add a circle here and all of that stuff. Don't listen to the tactics. Think about your target audience and think about the video's premise. And this thumbnail here is just a masterclass in that. But now I'll try and actually help you. So I haven't watched these videos. I am going to presume that these two here are as good as this first video. One thing that you say here is I share everything I learn with no set niche. Just whatever sparks my curiosity. This is an issue that a lot of small creators run into. You do need a niche for your channel. People aren't subscribing because of you just yet. You know, you have 1,000 subscribers, which is awesome in only 3 videos, but people aren't subscribing to you just yet. They are subscribing to learn a very specific thing from you. And ideally, we want to be able to summarize whatever we're all about in one word. So for me, thumbnails. For Will, fitness. For Ali Abdal, productivity. For Mr. Beast, spectacle. So if you feel like you might not have a lot of creative freedom by picking a niche, then instead maybe just pick a word that summarizes what you're all about. And that could be absolutely anything you want. So it could be, you know, focus, it could be procrastination, but the YouTube algorithm needs to understand what your target audience is interested in. That way the YouTube algorithm can help you out and show your video to the relevant people. Because if you do one video about organizing Windows 11 and then the next video on quitting social media and then how to stop overthinking, the YouTube algorithm's like, I don't understand what this channel is about, so it doesn't know who to show it to. And because your first video here did so well, what YouTube's probably done is given you a reasonable amount of impressions on this video here, I'm guessing. And YouTube showed that to this audience here because it thinks if you made a video on this, your next video is probably going to be something similar, or at least in the same kind of topic or something. Then you said you shouldn't quit social media. And then after that, you said, here's how I stop overthinking at night. And basically YouTube just got confused. It's like, I don't know who I should be showing these videos to. But if you don't think of it as a niche and just think of it as one word that summarizes everything that you are curious about, I think that will help with the writing of your titles and also the designing of your thumbnails and just brainstorming future video ideas. All right, well done. Let's move on to the next one. Sorry to interrupt. If you didn't know, I have a course all about titles and thumbnails. When I started this channel, I had a survey and most of you said that you want a course from me. So what I did was create the ultimate course about YouTube packaging. This includes the title masterclass with the 4 ingredients that make an effective title, my thumbnail masterclass with the 4 ingredients that make an effective thumbnail, my full design process blueprint. It also includes a bunch of downloadable resources and my thumbnail checklist, which you can go through before you upload any thumbnail. If you're interested, there's a link in the description. All right, let's look at this next channel here, Lewis Lol. So obviously you get a ton of views, 40,000, 40,000, 90,000, 55, 39, 45. If we go to popular, 441,000, 359, 336. All right, so you have a very distinct thumbnail style. What game is this? I don't play much video games. League of Legends. Okay, so this is all about League of Legends. I'm presuming people who play League of Legends will recognize these characters. I'm presuming if these characters aren't like main characters in League of Legends, then I would just make it more obvious that, hey, this video here is about League of Legends. It obviously might be kind of boring having the League of Legends logo in every thumbnail, but making it very, very obvious that, hey, this channel is about League of Legends. So I don't know what language these titles are in, so all I'm going off here is the thumbnails. But another thing that I'm seeing here with your thumbnails is you're using what I call industry terms. So you're using things that only people who are in that industry or are very big fans of that niche would understand. So I know what OP means, overpowered, but 14 CSM, I don't know what that is. 656 CS W 32 minutes. I don't know what 656 CS means. 2000 LP, I also don't know what that means. So basically what's happening here is you have your target audience here. This here is the amount of people interested in League of Legends. I am presuming that is going to be a very large amount of people. But the amount of people who understand the terms 2000 LP, 14 CSM, OP 78.9%, I'm presuming is going to be a much smaller total addressable market. So these here are the total addressable market. And basically these terms here are just very specific, meaning you have to A, be interested in League of Legends, but you also have to understand what these terms mean. So as you can see, it is now a very small total addressable market. So if you want more views, which I'm presuming you do, then all I would do is try to find terms in your thumbnail that more and more people can understand. So think about the average League of Legends player. What terms do they understand? Another framework that might help you is Paddy Galloway's CCN framework. He's a really cool YouTube strategist. So CCN stands for Core, Casual, and New. By the way, I'm not taking any credit for CCN. That is Paddy Galloway's idea and framework and everything, but I think you might find it useful. Basically ask for every video that you make here about League of Legends, will your core audience find this interesting? Will your casual audience find this interesting? And will someone new find this interesting? And that doesn't just have to apply to your channel, but also apply to League of Legends. So your question here is, how could I come up with a title for League of Legends for people that are specifically interested in League of Legends and they love League of Legends, they play all the time? For people that might have played League of Legends before, they find it interesting, they might have watched a video or two, but also the much, much larger target audience, if this is people who play League of Legends, then this here is people who have never played League of Legends. How can you write a title that's also interesting to all of them? So people who are completely new to League of Legends. So someone like me, I've never played. How could you come up with a title and thumbnail that's interesting to all of these people here? So now your target audience isn't just the people who know this industry term. It's not only the people who already play League of Legends, but it's all of these people here who have never played League of Legends before. That total addressable market is really, really large. Other than this total addressable market stuff and just making it really obvious that, hey, this channel here is all about League of Legends, I actually don't have much to say about your thumbnails. I think they're really good. Well done, mate. All right, this here is the last channel. They are called Rule of Thumb. All right, let's have a look at these thumbnails. These are absolutely terrible. Okay, these first ones here are much better. But if we look at these recent ones here, what are you doing? You know nothing. 291 views? Just quit YouTube, mate. This is embarrassing. 511 views, 483. This is awful. All right, so you're doing a ton of stuff wrong here. So at the start here, you clearly had a very distinct style and your views were doing a lot better. 1.9 thousand views, 51,000 views, 2,000 views here, or 2.5, 1,000 views, 1,000 views. So they were doing a lot better. Now you're trying to be creative and try all of this different stuff. You got this blue background here, this background here, all of these gradients and stuff. You just don't have a distinct style. This list here, which looks terrible, these here have some views, but they actually didn't look like that. Originally, they looked like this with a gray background, and only recently you added this gradient. Look at this, 7.3 thousand views and a simple gray background. What you're doing is falling into the trap of trying to look like every single other YouTube growth channel. They all have these bright, colorful backgrounds and stuff, but that's not what your channel is. Your channel is really boring, simple presentations, non-dopamine, low editing. So your thumbnails need to reflect that. From this thumbnail here, I would presume that this is more high dopamine with quick editing, which it's not. You know what? Let's look at the results for this thumbnail test here. So here, your thumbnail one with the fire has only 25.4% of watch time share, whereas this boring one here has 34.5% and this one here has 40%. And obviously this one's going to be terrible. This one here looks like it's going to be quick editing, a super fun video with a lot of visual effects and stuff, which it's not. Whereas this thumbnail here does a much better job of reflecting what the video is about. It's about thumbnails, which I can see here with these thumbnails, and with the text here saying this sucks, it's obvious that it's a roast. Stop trying this generic advice of, add fire and all of this stuff, and instead just do a good job of visually showing the premise and accurately reflecting the video's vibe, or whatever you want to call it. Again, if you want my full bundle, the title masterclass, the thumbnail masterclass, the design process blueprint, a bunch of downloadable resources, and my thumbnail checklist, there's a link in the description. If I didn't get to roasting your channel, there's a link in the description. Hopefully I'll roast yours in the next episode. Speaking of, if you haven't seen the previous episode, then click on this video here where I roast even more subscribers' thumbnails. Thanks for watching.